What's going on? Move the mouse back in City Skylines, the town of Springwood, technically Springwood 2.0. I'm revisiting the Foggy Hills map, one of the base maps from the game, one of the first maps I ever built on, but this time I'm doing it on the PlayStation version. So starting from scratch, no trophies, no unlocks, doing everything from the ground up, also no DLC. So let's dive in and see where we left off on the last episode. We're aiming for 900 to get a couple new things here. But while that's happening, I'm going to throw it in 3 times speed and see if we can't, one, expand a neighborhood out a little bit here. You know, I think I didn't mention, I did a little bit of a test build or a test record, and I think I talked about it there. One of the things I was planning on using for inspiration here for this particular build is San Francisco. San Francisco is just cut through the hills, completely relentless. So we will ignore them whenever possible. Maybe in some absolute extreme cases, we'll build something up towards the top. But I'm going to jump into the 4-lane road and just keep this on trucking right up the hill. That's fine. And we'll be building networks of roads off of that. Let's get one more set of roads in here. Sort of get all that cross-connected. Now, because of these hills, it's going to get a little crazy, and there'll be spots where we can't zone. So you'll notice that green patch in the middle. It's just too crooked, too far away from the zonable road. We won't worry about it too much just yet. I'm not going to zone any closer than that because let's actually look at the wind noise. City info, nope. Hold Y, go to info views. And let's look at noise pollution all the way down here. I bet we're encroaching a little too close. Yeah, we don't want to move in anybody any closer than that. So actually, let's get these people out of here. Let's delete here. Because they're right on the edge of being able to stand it right there. Crazy hills, crazy structures. This foundation actually looks like not even in the ground at this point. That's fine. Totally fine. So it's going to be hilly. It's going to be crazy. But the other thing is we're using these 4-lane roads to carry a lot of traffic. Notice that every intersection, it creates stoplights, and we do not want that. So while we're waiting for 100 more people to move in, hopefully we've got enough zoning. I don't think that we do. But let's do this. We've got the money. Gonna come out a little further than we need to. Gonna come out, what do? We did 2, so 20. Come out at least 20 before we start cutting in here to fit our back neighborhoods in. And let's get a couple of blocks in. So let's do that. We'll have some people move in. Something like that. And then over here, we'll start moving in more commercial because we're going to need it. But I had started to say, before I was so rudely interrupted by the game with problems, that we're going to create an awful lot of stoplights here. So we can go over to the inspector tool. I can hold triangle, bring up that radial wheel, and go to intersections. And now I can turn on and off stoplights. And in fact, in this case, what I recommend is letting the traffic flow on your main road that's carrying all the traffic, right? So we're letting it go up till this point. Now I might leave that traffic light on in particular. In this case, I'm going to stop the traffic coming off the highway so that it has to yield for the traffic that's already on the road. We'll come back to this in 1 second. We'll bring that right back up. We got our next milestone. This does not have a cross section yet. I don't have any water down here. That's great. But definitely something that you want to consider is... Sorry, apparently I can't talk and lay pipe. So we'll get that all lined up. We'll just connect this on the grid so that it's nice and easy as we expand the city. In fact, we'll do that. We'll do that just to make it nice and easy. I'm doing my grids perpendicular to one another. That's good. That really doesn't matter. Didn't need to do that. Sorry, I was getting carried away cleaning up pipes. So definitely keep an eye on that with your intersections as you're building your roads. It can be problematic. So again, I want the traffic on the main road to continue back and forth. I want the introductory traffic ingressing into the road to stop. And then same sort of principle here, right? This then becomes my next most important road, moving traffic around the zone. So we're going to stop the traffic. I'm not sure what's up with that graphical glitch. We're going to stop the traffic coming in from that way instead. And we can do the same thing here. So you could argue which one's more important. I'm gonna say that one is going to feed more traffic, but I don't know. It may not matter as much in the smaller residential portions of your town. But definitely we want to eliminate traffic lights whenever possible and just try and have the smaller roads effectively yield or give way, but unfortunately that's not an option. So stop signs, it is certainly better than traffic lights everywhere. Oh, so hey, we unlocked some stuff. Let's pause it because I think I mentioned this in the last episode. As soon as you unlock that stuff starts becoming a problem. So we unlock police stations, we start having crime. We unlocked fire stations, we start having fires. And very much like we saw before, that green coverage of the roads is kind of where they can get to effectively. In that image right there, those fires on the edge of the green, some of those buildings might burn down because they may not get there in time, especially if there's bad traffic. So where is it important for them to cover? Well, let's start with fire. And it's probably going to be important to cover over here by the industry. So let's make sure that is at least well into the green, I guess. We'll come over here with it. We'll come over here with our first station. I'm going to explain why here. So I didn't want to put it on the 4-lane road because if I do, the fire trucks can only leave turning right. In my case, if you were driving the other way, they can only leave turning left. But they can't go across the median. So they have to turn and go someplace, say maybe all the way down to the end of this street before they can come back and turn this way. So that is actually going to negatively impact things quite a bit. But the industry is more at risk for fire. And if you're doing something other than the windmills, like a coal power plant, that's very much at risk of a fire. And that can bankrupt your city if that burns down. All of a sudden, you don't have the money to replace it. City doesn't have electricity. Everybody moves out. You go broke. City's done. Start over. So definitely be careful with that. Let's jump over to police and solve our little crime problem over here. In this case, let's solve that a little closer to where the people live. So in this case, I'm going to face them in here so they can come support this area really easy. They aren't going to be able to get over to the industry quite as quick because they'll have to do a turnaround. Kind of like the fire in reverse, but that's okay. We'll make do and we'll add more redundant coverage as we continue to build our city. So that was police and fire. We also have some policies that we can do. They're all pretty terrible. Let's hold the triangle and go over to policies and talk about that real quick. We unlock different things as we go. We don't get them all thrown at us at once, which is nice. But these are kind of not the best. So there's some that I absolutely recommend. Energy conservation is important. So for power usage, install energy meters in buildings, reduces electricity consumption, but you pay money per building. So with water, it's sort of the same thing, right? Reduces water consumption, upkeep per building, reduced risk of fire, upkeep per building. If you're providing decent coverage for fire, which we're not just yet, in fact, we can go into info views and look at that fire safety. Oh, we haven't hit play yet since moving it in, so everybody looks like it has really bad fire safety. But you can see where the roads are green are where they can get to, where they can service. It makes zero sense that they can service this road because they don't technically have a path to drive to it, which is interesting. Confused about that one. But that's okay. That doesn't really matter right now. So you can kind of see where things are less at risk. Crime as well Again, where roads are green, they can get there pretty quick. But things will hopefully be okay. We need to expand. We need a lot of residential. We're not going to worry about those policies. We could talk about the industry specializations. And in order to do that, we have to talk about districts. What do you know? We can take out a second loan and we can buy an area. So let's do that first. Economy, loans, second loan. We owe 12 on the first 20 we borrow. We could pay that now and then get another 8 back, right? Just to get a little bit of extra spending money for the time being, that might help. If I jump back into the milestones, what else do we get? We got an area. Let's do that before we talk districts. And then once we do districts, we can talk specializations because those apply to a district. So we've got a decent chunk of land we can build down here. So I think we're going to go north. We can hold triangle, select areas from the radial. And we can buy any adjacent tile. Can't buy the diagonal. I can only buy north, south, east, or west, or west or east is the way I highlighted. One other thing to consider is if you're playing on console or without mods, you're only going to be able to buy 2 tiles away from here. So 1, 2, I cannot buy any further away, right? If I go right, 1, 2, so I could buy, you know, these 9 tiles. I could buy these 9 tiles. I could buy any combination as long as they have a solid flat border with another tile as I kind of work my way over to that corner. I did this map. One reason is because it's got a decent 9 tile structure, keeps things nice and simple. I'm going to start though by going north. Because north actually gets us a good bit of highway. So we'll be able to do at least, you know, at least one more exit over here, maybe over here. Definitely another exit, and we can rebuild this one to support a lot more traffic. So we'll see where we expand from there, but now we can really work our way up towards the highway, which is nice. So with the money we've got left, well, I guess we don't need to go all the way up to the highway, but we can certainly go up quite a bit. We're going to make some room here for some more neighborhoods. And when you see those dotted lines lining up, it means that it's lined up with that other road that was there. If you want to keep things pretty tight and simple, that's what I'm doing here. Because we're going for something kind of, you know, rigid and grid-based a la San Francisco with all the hills. Oh, didn't mean to do that. We'll bulldoze that and get that out of there. And let's see here. So this would be, I think. I mean, heck, what do we got? We got $71,000. We need people to move in. Let's give the people what they want. So that would be. Can we get? Let's do 3 units for now. I say 3 units. I mean 3 big lines, 30 squares, 30 units. And no, I don't mean to do that. I meant to come out 2. And that should make connecting all this up a breeze. And we've got now a massive neighborhood to move a bunch of people into, which is nice. Let's bring this all the way up, or maybe not all the way up to the highway, right to there. Where that next line kicks in is 5 units in. Let's do this. We'll connect some crazy roads through here. We don't do that one. But look at all that space we've got to move people in now. And in fact, I'm not even going to move them in all the way up to the road. Let's move this person out. We'll just bulldoze them now. We're going to do commercial kind of along some of this strip. And eventually we're going to move the residents that live off this main drag away from there as well. But we are totally fine to shift and shimmy and move things around how we see fit. So let's do that. I'm going to undo this zoning here because I don't think we need tiny little houses right next to the highway. We could put some trees and buffer some of the noise later on once we unlock landscaping tools. Let's hit play. We do have a ton of residential demand. We're going to have a ton of demand for water since we didn't really answer that problem over here. So again, 440 for that perfect bit of overlap. Don't mind that the overlap is actually a little bit more in this case, because we had a redundant pipe over here from the other side that I brought over. It's a little silly, a little extra. I'm trying to keep them organized. I'm trying to do what I can. If I stay on top of it, maybe it will continue that trend throughout the life of the city. Probably not, though. We're going to get some sloppy pipes later on. Just brace yourself. We are already having some electricity problems. We've got 63,000. Do we want to pollute for a little bit? I think that we do. It just makes it so much easier. So right here next to where we're already polluting, let's do this. Let's build ourselves a little block. And we can start building out room for some power plants. So we'll put the power plant there. If you did 12 units, you'd actually have space to put them back to back, which is kind of cool. But we can also just put them across the street from one another. That's fine too. Doesn't matter. And you can always rebuild. But if you can at least build with that future in mind when you go to gut things later on, which is what I've done here, right? I've allowed myself a little extra space so that when we come in to build a more proficient intersection, we can tighten it up a little bit, worry about the looks a little bit more, but we won't have to worry about deleting and destroying large areas of neighborhoods. So we got the power plant over here. We do have demand creeping up in a couple different zones, so we could... Let's do behind the block. Let's do this next block over. And why don't we do what we did before, right? Not have it zone on the actual street. Hey, we've unlocked our next milestone already. Let's make sure we talked about everything about the last one first. So what do we need for zoning? We need more residential already? Really? Don't we have? Did I not zone all this over here? What do you mean we need more residential? Look at all the residential. Move in. Okay. What are people complaining about? They're complaining about water up here. That could be availability. No, I didn't bring it up far enough up the hill. I didn't bring it $440 worth of pipe up the hill. Planning ahead there. We'll probably move away from wind. Just because it takes up a decent amount of room, and it's very noisy. So you have to keep it away from your residents. We'll take a look at our first fire over here. This is unfortunate because they can't turn around that median. So we've got to get another fire station in over on this side for sure. Looks like they put it out okay. We're complaining about water over here. I don't think I extended my pipes on this side either. And I think I'm doing my grids kind of perpendicular to one another, if I remember. Sometimes it's a little tough to dial that in. So zoning wise, we're doing pretty good, but we'll need to keep continuing to expand. We also unlocked another milestone, and this one has some fun stuff. So we can landscape now, move the terrain around. We didn't talk about unique buildings yet. We've got canals, high schools, parks, so much to talk about. Let's consider though districts and specializations. I think those are the two important things that we want to talk about. So we will pause it. Let's go over to our zoning and districts tab and switch over to the districts tab. So here, got a couple things. We can paint, we can erase, and we can view info on districts, which we don't have districts yet. So let's paint a district first. Holding Y lets me choose holding Y. I'm an Xboxer. Playing on the PlayStation, holding triangle lets me do small, medium, and large brushes. So in this case, you can also have it kind of, it'll click to the road. So if you want to use the road to kind of help draw your lines, it will do that. It gets a little funky though when you start switching between intersections and stuff like that. But for the most part, this is just drawing a logical area around your map and saying that, hey, this area is something, and maybe I want to treat it differently from other parts of the map. Let's go medium brush, and let's make sure that we're getting all this zone, but we don't want to necessarily get across the street. We want the across the street part to be its own unique, different zone. And if we don't like kind of where we went, we can grab the small brush, and again, that'll snap to roads, and then just use the square button to delete or to back off that zoning that you maybe didn't want on your highway or encroaching on another neighborhood, whatever it might be. Now, zoning does not have to be contiguous. So for example, this zone, you can break it, and this zone is also this zone. So you can apply the same set of rules or policies to that. So do keep that in mind. It's kind of a tricky way you can kind of cheat the system a little bit. But here, let's do this. Let's also erase along this road so that the zoning doesn't step on itself. So we've defined a district over here. We can, of course, change the names of these. But the other thing that lets us do is specializations. Now, we don't have that many specializations, but we can come over here to this other tab, and we can specialize in forestry. We can specialize in farming, later on ore and oil, or we can be generic. So at least as far as these are concerned, this is specific to anything that is industry. So if I was to, I don't know, put this specialization and click the button over here, like let's say we want to make this forestry. Well, if we go back into zoning, there is no industry, right? There's no industry. So it doesn't matter, like if any industry crops up there, it'll be forestry, but we don't have any industry here. So that doesn't really matter, but I need that logical separation of a district in order to do that. So in order to remove it, I'm just gonna go back to the generic industry specialization, hover over my district, click the button, and it's gone. So what does that let us do, right? So if we go back into that district tool, well, we can use this inspect districts. We can start to do some stuff. So we can name it something. If we want to change the name of a part of our town, that's how we do that. If we want to change the style of houses that are there. Now, I am going to do this later on. I'm going to make this more of a North American build. But we didn't have districts when we started, and people have already moved in. So if I change the style, it's going to move those people out. We don't want to do that. We can't afford that right now. We can also look at traffic routes for any given area. I mean, you can look at this for any road. It doesn't have to be a district, but you can kind of focus in on traffic for a district and see who's doing what, who's turning around where are pedestrians and bikes and private cars versus trucks and city service vehicles and so on. And that can help you understand, you know, where things are cutting through, maybe where some of your traffic backups are coming from or why. Of course, if you got a lot of traffic, it's going to be crazy and almost impossible to interpret, but we'll deal with those problems later. We can use that button to zoom in on the district, to rename, and we can also affect policies. So check this out. Let's back out. Let's back up way over here. Out of all the tools, hold triangle, go into policies. These are policies that apply across the entire city. Some of them that are pretty useless, like those first couple ones that we talked about. So maybe I want smoke detector distribution where fire is a risk, but I don't care about it where it isn't. So industry tends to burn more than your regular district. So what you could do is I could come in here, I can inspect in the district, I can go to policies, and now it's district policies. So district specific for Sycamore district, in this case, that little blob we painted around the industry. So I can say, maybe I want to do smoke detector distribution here. I feel like I said detector funny, detector. So we could do smoke detector distribution here on just that district. So we aren't paying for it across the entire city. We are paying for it where there's more of a risk of fire. So you could do something like that. Lawmaker trophy. So it's a good thing I did that because it got me an achievement. But you can specify that to happen on just one district. That's also how we can tell industry what we want it to do. And things like forestry and farming don't pollute, but they need resources. So If you see where there's trees, that's a good place to build forestry. Go figure. We can come down here and look at the resources. Green is good for forestry. Yellow is good for farming. We've got actually a little patch that we might unlock over there. The kind of blue, see it off in the hills there, that is ore, and then oil is dark black. Now you can always import those goods from outside your city, but you can make more money if you're providing those types of things inside your city. That's a decent spot to break. We are at 1,600 population, which means that we did unlock a milestone, and we're going to talk about that on the next episode, because there's certainly a lot we can dive into, but I'm not going to worry about that just yet. I'll catch you on the next one for that. If you enjoyed today's video, likes, comments, and shares, they all help. They're all appreciated. Subscribe if you're new, and hit the bell to get notifications for updates in this and other series. If you'd like to support the channel, there's links to that and lots more in the description down below. But stay tuned. We're going to keep plugging away and building and unlocking what we can in this vanilla build of City Skylines. Hopefully you're enjoying the ride. Until the next one, though, this is Move the Mouse, signing off.